Welcome, dear viewers, to a new episode of Dialogue Horizon. In this episode, we will try to go in depth on the relations, the assumed or the ideal relations with neighboring countries. Any country in the world is usually, or most countries, they start by having some kind of relations and sometimes some kind of treaties or sometimes some kind of integrational agreements. In Sudan, we have this problem. First, because Sudan is sharing the borders with 7 countries. Total length of the borders is 6,800 kilometers with 7 countries, plus a coastal border of 853 kilometers in the Red Sea. The longest border with Sudan is with South Sudan, which is about 2,100 kilometers. Next to it is Chad, 1,300, and then Egypt, 1,200, followed by Ethiopia, about 683 kilometers, and Eritrea, about 700 kilometers, plus other small boundaries with Libya, in the corner with Libya and Central Africa. So Sudan has a real problem, which could be something good, conducive to the growth of Sudan, or it could be something bad, creating some tensions on the borders. So that's why we are hosting a mix of economists and politicians. Politicians with the background, the law background. We have our friend Dr. Abdul Halim Teman. He's the assistant president of Party. And also we have our friend Dr. Samani Hanoun. He's an economist and he has lots of contributions in this area. So welcome both of you with me in this important episode about the relations with borders of Sudan or any countries. Thank you. Okay, we start by Dr. Halim. As a politician and as a lawyer, and he has a good knowledge about the effect of the good or bad neighborhood. So, Dr. Abdul Halim, we have, as I introduced, we have the longest, we have a very long borders, land borders and coastal border, about 8,600 kilometers with 7 countries. So, generally speaking, what could or what should be the relation between a country like Sudan and 7 different countries in the east, in the north, in the south, in the west, with different political systems and maybe different ideologies? So what is the best way to go out and to make use of these long borders? What is the best way? Because otherwise it will be something detrimental, it should be something bad if not well organized. So what can you tell us about the borders, in general, borders with countries?
Thank you for having me, and thank you for your guest, Dr. Hanoun, and my greetings to your guest, Dr. Hanoun, and to dear viewers. And I'm very happy to share in this episode about the borders of Sudan, because this is a very important issue. And we know that it is a fact that Sudan has a strategic location bordering 7 countries, I think 4 of which are landlocked, like Chad, Central Africa, South Sudan, Eritrea, and Ethiopia. They are, no, not Eritrea, Ethiopia. So there are 4 countries which are landlocked. So yes, South Sudan, Ethiopia, Central Africa, and Chad. So we know that Chad, for example, it has normally they import their goods through Douala port, which is almost about 6,000 kilometers, while the distance to Port Sudan is almost half this distance. But strategically, Sudan did nothing in order to invest in infrastructure like railways and roads to Chad. That is why we have a big loss in this trade with Chad. And we also remember that the Ethiopians in the early 90s, they came here with a big delegation when they want to build a strategic partnership with Sudan in order to import all their needs through Port of Sudan. But there were hindrances and the negotiations failed, unfortunately, although the distance to Ethiopia is not more than 1,000 and something kilometer, but they were obligated to go to another difficult option through, I think, Djibouti, which is almost more than 6,000. And now, after some years, they were able to extend railway from Djibouti to Ethiopia. So Sudan should have benefited from this chance. But unfortunately, the lack of coordination and the lack of vision and strategies made this option difficult. And I think Sudan needs to revise this relationship. Also, I went to South Sudan. I visited South Sudan in 2014, and I was talking to many people there who are working in import and export. I came to know that Juba is connected to, with Uganda through a paved road, and this road extends to Kenya, where it ends in Mombasa airport port. And so it is very easy for them to import their goods through Mombasa, through the paved road, through two countries up to Juba. And at the same time, this road goes up to Uganda, Rwanda, and also to Democratic Republic of Congo. And to the south, this same road connects South Sudan with Tanzania, up to South Africa, can you believe? And even when they import the apples from South Africa, they told me that they import it through trucks. But at the same time, after independence and after 65 years, Sudan has no way to connect itself with South Sudan. And this is a very big mistake. Up to now, we have big loss in trade with South Sudan because of the absence of infrastructure. Can you believe that there is no single road, paved road, that connects Northern Sudan with Southern Sudan, although they were one country? But after secession of South Sudan in 2005, 2011, they found themselves connected to many countries down to South Africa with paved roads. And this is very unbelievable. Also, the same case with Libya. The Libyans, they offered, I remember Muammar Gaddafi, the president, the ex-president of Libya, in many occasions he offered for Sudan to build a road through Middle East to connect Sudan with Libya through paved road. This also, at this time, we found that also we are disconnected with Libya. And the only progress was with Egypt, where we find ourselves connected with Egypt with a paved road. And this is also very recent.
Very recent.
Yeah, and the same thing with Chad, Central Africa. So when you look at this huge opportunity, if Sudan put a good strategy and intimate cooperation and agreements with finance corporations and with other countries, it could have financed all this infrastructure with agreements with these countries and with other countries, and these kind of projects
this should have been done from the beginning.
And these projects, they cost Sudan nothing because they can be built on the basis of build, operate and transfer the boat system. And this is available in the international finance organizations. But the change of government.
Nobody paid attention. Okay, let us continue with Dr. Samad. I think Dr. Halim Teman, he mentioned something very important, that to make use of the borders, full borders, you have first to qualify yourself by improving the infrastructure. That's what he's saying. So I want you to talk about this, to elaborate on this qualification, to be qualified so that you make mutual interest to the interest of Sudan, and your personal evaluation on the existing situation in the borders with Sudan and the 7 countries.
Thanks to Dialogue Horizon for this special opportunity, and I am happy to join with my friend Dr. Abdul Halim Timan and a special greeting to the viewers of Dialogue Horizons. Yes, I think this is a very central issue. To what extent Sudan benefit from the neighboring country? In other words, to what extent Sudan involved in regional economic integration? A regional economic integration actually conceptually defined as a process where two or more countries agree to eliminate all economic barriers and give more freedom to the people, to the capital, to the investment, to the trades, and give more opportunities to the people in order to realize mutual interest for all parties, and especially the active bilateral relation between Sudan and the neighboring country. The very long borders that means can be used as advantage or disadvantage to Sudan. For instance, it is difficult to control these very long borders, and you need to pay high budget or to line up a huge budget in order to control these long borders. But at the same time, create a golden opportunity Sudan to involve in regional economic integration and hunt huge benefit to the economy. As elaborated by Dr. Abdul Halim, he explained that up to now Sudan failed to invest in infrastructure, and especially the railways that to be extended from Sudan to from Port Sudan to Pretoria, with the only point that you need to connect this railway through Uganda from Da'an, Buram, Raja, and Uganda. And once you connect this part of railway, then you can ship goods from Port Sudan to Pretoria. It is very short distance, can be financed by boat, as mentioned Dr. Abdul Halim. And also another very important railway line that will be extended to Conakry in Ghana that go through Tashat. And once you enter the railway Tashat, that means automatically you connect with the Conakry. So another railway should go to Mombasa in Mogadishu. These railways will make huge and unlimited opportunity to the Sudan economy. And it is costless, you know, the most cheapest cost, the railway cost can easily connect it by boat and can be financed from the users of the roads. So this is, I think, one option. Sudan is still far below average. The connections with the regional integration, if you examine Africa, you will find Kenya, number one, and find Rwanda and Zambia, and these are African countries with a very extended network of the countries. So my judgment is that Sudan need to work very hard in order to connect with the neighboring country that represent market to the Sudanese product, like African market. Unfortunately, they link with Egypt, which use Sudan as market for its product. So they have to open market for Sudanese export to the Africa, in Central Africa, in Uganda, in South Sudan, in other parts of Africa. I think it is high time for the strategic planning for Sudanese to extend this line. One line of railway should go to Ghana, to Conakry. Other line should go to Mombasa. Besides the existing railways that will serve the national interest of Sudan and also will create unlimited opportunity for Sudanese investors through using this network of railway, beside the paved routes also that will enhance the development in country. I think Sudan is still below average. That requirement for regional economic integration, they have to boost, except up to now Sudan is a member in COMESA and IGAD. Sudan should involve in ECOWAS, in West Africa, in East Africa, in different parts of Africa in order to create market and to give more freedom to the investors in Africa and also to the movement of people across Africa in order to get huge opportunities for the Sudanese investors, whether inside the economy or outside in the regional market. So regional integration will serve the interest of the Sudanese people. Even the existing regional integrations not benefit Sudan, like what's happened with Egypt. And this is why people, they revolt against this biased trade relation. So you need to develop some strategy and plan in order to serve the interests of the Sudanese people and to realize mutual interest for both contracting parties or bilateral relations in Africa.
Okay, that's very clear, very good. Okay, Dr. Halim, as Dr. Sammani Hanoun mentioned here, Sudan is already a member in regional organizations like IGAD, like COMESA, like other, but it seems that Sudan did not benefit from this relation, whether it's COMESA. Many people in Sudan, they don't know even COMESA and what is the use of COMESA and what is the meaning of the zero tariff. But Sudan did not make use or did not benefit from its membership in this organization. Maybe to some extent only political with IGAD, because IGAD brokered the CPA, the agreement with the South, which ended by the secession of the South, which was not good to us, not good. And so what is your evaluation for why Sudan is not benefiting from its membership in these regional organizations? Why is not benefiting? What's the reason for this?
First of all, it's good that a country like Sudan make agreements with neighboring countries, and also one of the most important strategies for many countries is to make regional economic groupings and agreements and preferential agreements and exemption agreements, also in terms of customs exemption agreements or any kind of agreements that can boost trade and economic relationship between these countries. But the important thing is that when you make integration or agreements in a group of countries and you are weak and your economic characteristics does not give you any competitive advantage in exchange, though at this, in this instance or in this case, normally you will not benefit from this agreement. Normally, countries who come together and make regional groupings and agreements, they normally have unique characteristics in terms of their products, their also type of economy and these things. But when you come to the case of Sudan, for example, we have a huge chance in order to exchange with all these countries. But because we did not invest in our infrastructure, in electricity, for example, the industry is not it's not developed, and at the same time the unit cost of any product is very high in terms of cost for the Sudanese products, and as we said that we have no connection either by paved roads or railways with our country. So the only option for Sudan is to receive from these countries some products. But I think Sudan needs to look at this competitive advantage and try to invest to a good strategy so that it can raise its level in terms of exchange, and in order not to be the weaker part in these agreements. And I think, for example, like COMESA, when you talk about free trade between countries like Egypt and Sudan, for example, the next day we'll see that this Egypt will swallow Sudan because the exchange is not, there's no any balance in terms of exchange. So you will receive everything from Egypt, because even for soap, for example, although you have here you have industry in Sudan for soaps industry, for example, laundry or anything, but at the same time you will find that the Egyptian products are cheaper because of volume, because of cheap also electricity in Egypt and all these things. So you don't open your economy for free trade unless you invest in infrastructure, you invest in many sectors that will raise the level of the economy and put it in a position of fair exchange. This is one thing. But also there is also another thing in terms of some countries like Egypt, for example. They have preferential agreements with other countries. For example, the Egyptians, they have preferential agreements with many European countries like Romania, for example, because we know that Sudan is now not exporting sesame directly to Europe. It is very difficult to compete there, even your products that goes through Egypt, because in this case, you will pay 17% in terms of customs for any goods that come from Sudan. But for the case of Egypt, because they have a zero tariff agreement between these two countries, they pay zero. So when they import sesame from Sudan and then they re-export it to Romania, simply because of agreement. Sudan could have done this.
Could have done
So
that.
yeah, any minister of trade can just go and to Romania and make this agreement so that our goods will find its way to Europe, for example. The same case with other countries. So we need first, before COMESA and these big economies like South Africa. South Africa is not a member of COMESA, I think.
Not
Yeah, but countries like Egypt and Kenya now, we are not in a position to exchange with them. So we need some bilateral or triangle agreements between countries, for example, Sudan and Chad. We can make some preferential agreements so that goods will, that goes to Chad through transit, for example, we will just benefit from the service that is connected with this export, and then we will put zero tariff, for example, for any other charges. This type of agreements, we need to develop them between these countries. Their impact and benefit for our economy is much better than going to these regional agreements.
This is very,
Yeah,
very good.
yeah,
Okay, my
yes.
question is related to this. It is that he mentioned that a very important good point that to benefit more or to the maximum, you have to have a strong economy.
Yeah.
We have the potential for the strong economy, but we don't have the strong economy. When the potential, I mean, we have the agriculture, we have the minerals, we have the land, we have water, we have all the potential necessary for making ourselves having good, strong economy, so that you can enter any group, economic group, and you will benefit from that group. That is why our exports are not compatible with the resources, actual resources. The export, if we solve the problem of exploiting and using the resources, we could have been one of the biggest countries, maybe in Africa or the Middle East, which has maximum export of all kinds of commodities. Can you elaborate on this?
Definitely. I think one of the structural problems encounter the Sudan economy, that the prime condition to involve in regional economic integration, you should have well-functioning market economy, which doesn't exist in Sudan, in order to benefit from the relation with the outside countries. If we were involved in any integration, that will go to the benefit of the other party, like what happened with Egypt. The balance of trade will be in favor of Egypt if you involve in such biased relation. So Sudan should make internal structural reform to build the economies that 100% rely on market economy. On market economy, you can easily integrate with other economies in the world, and the fiscal and monetary policies will match with the economies of the other world. If you are implementing Islamic economics, for instance, that will not match with the liberal economy. So from the beginning, you need to build well-functioning market economy in monetary policies and fiscal policy. This is a must. If you go to the Copenhagen Agreement that established the European Union, you will find, number one, well-functioning market economy. Everywhere in regional economic integration, we mentioned well-functioning market economy, which it doesn't exist in Sudan. This is why most of the term of trade goes against Sudan, because Sudan implementing different economic system. So you need to revise the economic system inside. And when I talk about aggressive decision about monetary and fiscal policies in order to meet the requirements of regional integration and to get health benefits in the international economy and to build a stock market and financial market, it is a must. Otherwise, even you involve in monetary, in regional economic integration, the trades will go against your interest, will favor other people. This is why, because you don't have well-functioning market economy. Well-functioning market economy is a special expression used in regional economic integration. Whenever we want to build regional economic integration, we have 6 levels of regional economic integration. So we need to develop well-functioning market economy. Otherwise, you will never benefit from this economy. Even you join this regional economic integration, you will harm your economy. Like what happened with Egypt, for example.
So
People, they revolt.
Well-functioning economy
yes.
is a term, it's a new term.
Yeah.
Maybe it means that...
it means that...
What is exactly...
Yeah, let me to explain. Well-functioning in market economy is 100% rely on supply and demand forces. Without government intervention, government should exit from the business.
Okay.
That only market will allocate the resources in the economy according to supply and demand forces exclusively. So that well-functioning market economy, you will find the pricing system is very efficient. Resource allocation in the economy very efficient, and also can easily integrate with the economies outside. If you examine the economy in Africa, you can easily discover that most of them are market economy. So in order to work in harmony, like symphonic music, you need to develop market economy here in Sudan also. And that will be well functioning. That means you have to develop fiscal policy with the minimum trade barriers, with minimum government restriction, with minimum economic barriers that you make it low. All the restrictions of government on trade and investment should be low. And also you have to develop monetary policy. In that monetary policy, you have to relax the interest rate, of course, in order to introduce the open market operations and to open the discount rate, and the tools of the monetary policy will work very efficiently. Unless you make this internal reform, you wouldn't benefit from any regional economic integration. It is a must for national economy to develop a strategy that make internal reform in order to create what we call well-functioning market economy in the economy, in order to benefit from the regional economic integration. And also you can extend the network of the infrastructure by extending railways to the Mombasa, to the Ghana, to Pretoria. That will open the economy and will give more freedom to the trade and investment, and also the most important and vital concern, to remove the government restrictions. Government restriction, yeah, it should be minimum. To give freedom to the people to move freely across region. A visa will be with minimum requirements. The capital should move freely. Technology should move freely. These are factors of production, should have full freedom in the economy. I think it is high time today, Sudan, to move to the full market economy. That will solve the problem and the bottleneck in the economy, because you know Sudan has absolute advantage in wide range of products, especially in agricultural sector, in industrial sector, and even in service sector. Sudan is ranked within the top 10 countries that attracts tourists in the world. So they can invest in tourism, in education, in health, every service. So I think market economy, with us defined well-functioning market economy, will serve the interests of the Sudanese people. Don't delay, don't spend more time, just go ahead and implement the well-functioning market economy with sounding monetary and fiscal policy. You will have a lot of advantage.
This is very good. Okay, yeah. He's talking about well-functioning market economy. This is good. Now he explained the terms, which is very clear to us and to you and to the viewers. Although he is specialized, this is his specialty, he's specialized, but Dr. Harim and myself were not economists, but we benefited from what you said about this well-functioning, which is, it seems that something very broad. Well-functioning means it covers everything. Like, okay, if we go, one of the elements of the well-functioning economy is the stability, the political stability. Now, as an example, we have two very recent incidents which will definitely make the economy not functioning well. One was the closure of the lifeline of the East East Sudan, and the only one port for about 45 days. Now we are having the same thing happening in the lifeline to the north in Egypt. So things like this definitely will hamper, will jeopardize any effort to go all the way in the well-functioning economy. What he explained. So this is something political. What can you tell us about the reason for this? For example, taking example the roads, the Port Sudan road and the North Road, the blockage and protracted not only for 2 or 3 days, for more than months.
Anyhow, I'm very familiar with this because I study economics, but
Okay.
we need to also recall a very important fact, that Sudan is the only country in this area that is disconnected from other countries. Because when you go to Chad, you will find that Chad is connected to Cameroon, then to Nigeria, to Benin, up to the Atlantic coast. And these countries also, they have one currency group of countries. There are 5, Niger, Chad, Cameroon, Gabon, and Togo, I think. And these countries, they use one currency, so they have, yes, the franc CFA, they have an agreement. So 5 countries, they have one currency, and this also reflected in a good economic grouping, and they made exchange between these countries and economic cooperation much easier. And when you also return to the previous example I talked about, in the case of South Sudan, you will find that South Sudan is just connected with paved roads through Uganda, Kenya, and then Rwanda, and the Democratic Republic of Congo in the west, and up to
Kenya.
South Africa through Tanzania. And Egypt as well also has a paved road that connects Egypt through Libya to Tunisia, Algeria, up to Morocco. So, but Sudan is not connected to Egypt, only to Egypt, a road that was blocked. But Sudan is not connected with full paved roads with Chad. Sudan is disconnected from South Sudan, and Sudan has not good roads or paved roads with Eritrea. So Sudan needs to connect itself with its borders first. So this is our fact. The other thing that you talk about the political issues, when we use economic tools in our political struggle, and this is very dangerous, because what happened in the case of Port Sudan has damaged or caused a great damage in the economy, because now the cost of transport of 40 high cube feet container from China to Sudan is between $22,000 to $24,000 for one container. And this also will automatically reflect in higher prices that the customer will pay it. And this is also due to the blockage that was happened to the port of Sudan. Until now, some lines, they will ask you about guarantees when you talk about shipment to Port Sudan. Although the road is open, but the results are still damaged. And in the case of Egypt, for example, there are some important facts. I think first we must talk very frankly. These people who have blocked the road, the Sudanese people, they have every right to do so, I think, and they are just translating their observation about the unfair rules of exchange between these two countries. But this is what is visible for them. But the facts, we need to elaborate the details further. Because, for example, the red sesame that goes to Egypt, it's not only produced in Sudan, because Sudan is also a smooth gate to Egypt for the Chadian red sesame, because we import also a considerable amount of red sesame from Chad. And also there is Sudanese beans coming from Chad to Sudan. So we also import many goods, agricultural products that we already produce here in Sudan. But it also because the Chadians, they are blocked country, they have no option but to export to Sudan. When you return to the case of Sudan and Chad, you will find the same case with, between Sudan and Egypt, because the Chadians, they export to Sudan, the Sudanese bean, and then they import food oil. So this is the case, because also they have problems in electricity, they don't have good industry. So normally in any economic relations, you don't blame the other country, but you should invest in your infrastructure and in your strategies through supporting or developing the private sector, creating a strong private sector in terms of also making good agreements, fair agreements, because the case of Egypt, what complicated this issue is that through all these years, the two countries, they did nothing to convince the population in Sudan that this is a fair trade exchange. They should have made mutual agreements and common industrial areas between the two countries, where the Sudanese find themselves, they are sharing the benefit of the products through the Egyptians helping the Sudanese economy by transferring the technology, the industry, and the other technology to Sudan. And then you will produce many goods in Sudan instead of exporting the raw materials from Sudan all these years. This is one. The other thing is also the intervention of the government companies in exchange and trade between Sudan and Egypt, to the extent that there are some sectors that is completely monopolized by some government and military companies. This is also caused many people, the private sector and the normal citizens, because the people in the north and in many parts of Sudan, normally they benefited from this trade exchange in the past. But they recently found that this trade was monopolized by a certain group of companies. This left the private sector and the normal citizens out of this benefit of exchange, or this circle of exchange. And this also shed light to other practices also. I think we need first, for any country like Egypt, for example, first of all, there should be involvement of the private sector, and then they should subject this relation to a good revision and build it on fair terms of exchange, and there should be some clear agreements of exchange and trade between these two countries, because I think in the 1990s, there was a Sudanese export or trade center in Egypt. This center played a very, very good role in those years in terms of organizing the trade, in terms of developing the trade, in terms of receiving the complaints of the exporters and developing the agreements, the trade agreements between the two countries. But in the 2000s, after the intervention of the military and the government companies, and after they monopolized many sectors, this center was closed. I think this is also made the private sector they don't care about the exchange, and they look at it as unfair exchange. So, but at the same time, Sudan was forced or obliged to trade with Egypt for the last 27 years because it was sanctioned by the international community. And by the way, Sudan's exchange or trade exchange with the foreign countries, the biggest country that has, or United Arab Emirates, is the first in terms of exchange with Sudan, with the amount of 20, 274 or something billion dollars. No, 27.4
million.
Yeah, 27. No, 274 billion, I think.
274 million. Yes, yes. I think
Yes,
it could be
this is
274 million. Yes.
yeah, this is United Arab Emirates, and the second is China. The third is Saudi Arabia. The fourth is Egypt.
The fourth is Egypt.
Yes, 27, 20, 16, and then 16 something. So Egypt is the fourth country. So people also they need to know
Partner, export partner.
yeah, the export volume between Sudan and Egypt. Egypt is the fourth country in terms of exchange volume between Sudan and other countries. So, but still we need also, in order to avoid, and there is also one important fact, what brought or made the volume with United Arab Emirates be the biggest? Because of the sanctions of Sudan. Most trade was made through United Arab Emirates, where goods from China, for example, and other countries, they are imported with an invoice to United Arab Emirates, and then they re-export the same goods to Sudan with another invoice from UAE. This also, some statistics estimate that the loss in this case is about $2 billion per year. So in case of Egypt, we need to look at...
look, this is very, very, very serious. Very serious, I think.
Yeah, I
what
think one more
he's
point.
mentioning, yes.
Yeah.
Also, I want to just couple it to what I want to, which is it goes in line with what Dr. Harim is saying.
Yeah.
Now, we talk about integration or trying to encourage investors because we have raw material, dear raw material. And sadly enough, it is exported raw from the tree, raw, without adding any value to it.
Yeah.
And the countries which import or takes this from Sudan, this raw material, they benefit 10 times what we benefit from this raw. And I remember Dr. Hamdouk, when he came in the first statements, he was saying he was wielding the slogan of stopping export of raw material.
Yeah, absolutely is right.
So why big multinational companies cannot be invited to work, as Dr. Harim said, on the boot project, build on, operate and transfer, because we don't have money.
Yeah, I think one reason the perpetual sanctions on Sudan economy, because of political instability. I think one way to break this sanction, we should go to the West. We have to export to the Africa. That will give more. These two countries control the economy of Sudan, whether Egypt or UAE. By way or another, they block the Sudan. If Sudan take to the Africa, they can export the goods to the world. So one way to break this control of sanctions, political instability in country, you need to go to African market. African market, you can export to the world everywhere. So I think that is one problem. So we need a regional economic integration to export our goods to the outside. Now we produce huge quantities of peanuts, of sesame, of different oil seeds in Sudan, but we fail to export outside. This is why prices drop dramatically in the production centers in Sudan, and thus producers suffer from very low prices for their product. I think what decision carried by Dr. Abdullah Hamdouk during when he in power to stop export, or he banned export of raw material, absolutely correct. We have to encourage the processing industries. That will increase the foreign direct investment to the economy, will create job for job seekers in the economy, will increase the GDP in the economy through production. So we need to encourage the processing industry. We have not export any goods as a raw materials or input to the outside. Processed good will increase value added to the products and to the economy as well. So we need to encourage all producers, they export only the processed good, not in a raw form. That will harm the economy and will lower the proceeds hunted from export from outside to the economy. Other countries, they control the economy of Sudan now, by the way, and they act on behalf of the country. For example, you find most of the product entitled made in that country. That will harm the economy, definitely. If we were planning to reform the economy, we need to ban and strictly stop export of raw materials to the outside. And we have to build our factories here in order to employ our youth, our graduates.
To give value, more
yes,
value.
and export these products to the world at higher prices in international market. So I think this is the right way. But I think there is no political will in order to implement this strategy. Everyone in Sudan, they understand exporting raw material harmful to the economy.
But
So no political will or commitment
yes.
to implement this very strategic decision. This is why the people revolt against exporting raw materials when the biased balance of trade with Egypt. People felt that Egypt, they export their products, so they have to stop. The government should develop a strategy in order to protect the national economy. People, very poor people in the world, a country, very rich country like Sudan with the poorest people in the world. We have to, I mentioned several times, we have to make very fair equation. Rich country with rich people. This is what I understand. But I couldn't understand rich country with poorest people in the world, among the three poorest countries, Congo, Yemen, and Sudan. This is very shameful, actually.
very shameful. Well, we have resources.
Yeah, we have a lot of resources.
We have few resources, Dr. Halim. Having heard Dr. Saman Honest is touching a very important point, which takes me directly to the issue, small issue. We have few minutes. The issue, like one of the examples is the gold, the smuggling. This is one of the disadvantages or one of the loopholes in the long borders. If you have long borders, smuggling will be commonplace. But the most important item now, people talking about this national mining, and the government, the Austin government, gave way to the smugglers through this mining. Anyhow, it is a natural resource, but the government now is completely out of the picture, and most of the gold is smuggled outside. So can you tell us about the smuggling on the borders, plus what Dr. Sammani Hanoun in about 2 minutes?
Yeah, concerning smuggling through borders, I think this is the case when Sudan was subsidizing, for example, fuel in the past, because the barrel price in the neighboring countries is 8 times the price in Sudan. At that time, this encouraged also smuggling, and Sudan was importing more than it
because
is,
of the subsidies,
needs.
yes.
Yeah, for example, in sugar,
wheat,
and wheat, and all these products. But after lifting this subsidy, this smuggling will decline. But concerning gold, gold is what is the exit of smuggling of gold? It's not through borders; it's through the airport. And
most of it through airport.
Most of it, 95% of gold smuggling is through the airport. Everybody knows this. And this needs a political decision. And because this smuggling is made by powerful companies and individuals, so this is something that needs a political decision at the top level of the country. This is one. But concerning the trade exchange also, Sudan is not doing unfair trade exchange with Egypt only. For example, Ethiopia, when you look at their trade statistics, they are scoring high volume in the gum arabic, for example.
Arabic.
Yes, although they don't grow.
Yeah,
they don't grow gum arabic. Yeah. So this is also due to smuggling. And the same case with Egypt, for example. Many of our products go through Egypt. But at this time, we cannot stop exporting raw material. This is not, this is there. Many countries, also Australia, they
Can be an
export,
objective.
yeah, export ships, live ships to Saudi Arabia and things. But we need to put a strategy, and at the same time we keep on this unfair exchange, we control it, we organize it, we make new agreements, and until we reach the point where we can produce and develop our industry to the extent that we don't need to export raw material. At that time, we can block
Then we
it.
can put, okay. Okay, that is very good. I think we had good talk about this, but time is short. It's a very wide and big issue. But the most important is that people, they are both gentlemen are calling for a revival of the political system, stability of the political system. After that, the infrastructure, then we can compete. Thank you, dear viewers, for being with us in the last hour or so in this issue. Hope to see you next week in a different topic in Dialogue Horizon. Thank you. Bye.